Okay, so that should be us live now. So hello and welcome to episode 3 of PFT Talk. Now you may remember in the past we had some slight issues with lag and stuff, but we have switched our streaming software and now you should get
much better quality.
Yeah, basically my webcam seemed to be the main problem last time because XSplit before made basically my whole computer lag for no reason. So we have switched over to Open Broadcaster, if that interests you at all. And hopefully this is okay. So we will be doing the usual setup, streaming this live to Twitch, and then afterwards uploading to our YouTube channel. So coming up on today's show, we have a multitude of topics. So of course yesterday we had the launch of the new LG G4, which is LG's flagship device. We also have some news about the OnePlus 2, a lot of stuff from WhatsApp, and of course the Apple Watch release. So getting started, we have the OnePlus 2. Now this isn't the newest news, this was from late last week, but basically OnePlus announced that they are going to be basically announcing, they announced that they're going to announce the OnePlus 2. Now, if you don't know anything about OnePlus, basically they made some very nice smartphones, but the main problem with it was you had to get an invite to buy one. You couldn't just go to their shop and pick one up, and sadly this will be the same place with the OnePlus 2, which seems a bit odd to me because that's definitely going to cut down on their sales a lot, because you're not just going to be able to walk into a shop and get one. You have to actually be invited.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting marketing ploy, if anything, because what it will do is it'll make it a much more exclusive phone. You know, people, like as you said, people won't be just able to go and buy it, like go into like a Carphone Warehouse or wherever and go and buy one. So on that kind of side of things, it's going to be a much more exclusive phone. So if anything, it might increase the interest of the public to go and buy one to try and get an invite. But I do think that's a mistake, and it will probably hurt them more than it will benefit them.
Yeah. I guess probably one of the big issues with it is they are still a small company, so they just don't have the manufacturing power of companies like Samsung, HTC and Apple. So they might not be able to produce enough units to keep up with demand, I guess.
Or alternatively, I think it could also be a method of maximizing your sales. So only having your phones come through in batches, and then only when you're 100% sure that you've got more stock, only then do you give out more invites.
Now, of course, the OnePlus One was kind of a big deal because it came stock with Cyanogen, which we'd never seen before. But Cyanogen and OnePlus have split, and this phone will launch with Oxygen OS, which is basically OnePlus's own kind of Android operating system, which from what I've seen is quite nice. It's fairly close to stock Android. It looks good and seems to perform quite well, so this will certainly be a very interesting phone when it's announced.
Suggesting we probably never get our hands on it, but you know,
yeah.
Well done OnePlus, well done.
So WhatsApp have been rolling out a few updates. So a while back they announced the update for their Android app, which enabled voice calling, and this week they basically added the exact same update to the Apple devices and even BlackBerry. I don't actually think it's out yet on Windows, but I'm sure that's coming in the future.
Wait, hold on. Does Windows actually have a WhatsApp app?
As far as I'm aware, they do.
Because like there's been many and many of apps that have had to get like different port, because I remember Windows Phone didn't have a Snapchat app, and I don't think it had a WhatsApp app for a good long while.
So, well, basically, if you don't know what WhatsApp is, it's an internet-based messaging service that is on your phone, and they now have calling, which I haven't actually tested out yet. But considering
that was going to be my point. I mean, it's a nice feature to have, but like I've never used WhatsApp and thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to call somebody through this thing. I wish I could do that. You know?
The whole kind of idea behind WhatsApp is supposed to be getting rid of having to pay for texts and calls, but nowadays most people have unlimited text and unlimited calls, so you're not really saving much money by doing that.
I think, as far as I can see it, the only benefit of actually having WhatsApp is having like group chats, because you can't have a group text chat.
Yeah.
That's like the only thing.
I guess if you didn't have a SIM card and you were connected to Wi-Fi, you could use it that way. But personally, the calling, it's a nice feature that I'm glad they added, but I don't see myself using it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it'll just be there, but I won't touch it.
Now, on to one of the bigger stories of the week was, of course, the Apple Watch release. So, I'll try and bring it up on the screen here. But basically, the Apple Watch was announced a long time ago, and pre-orders started getting sent out on Friday. So this watch, I'm sure you know, there's 3 different versions. So you have the Sport, the Regular, and the Edition, which vary in prices and are all made of different metals. Now, just to update you guys, I have ordered the black or space grey Apple Watch Sport Edition 42mm with the black rubber band, and I believe I got a shipment update. It's like something like 3 to 4 weeks, so you should see that very soon coming to the channel.
I like how you said black rubber band, as if Apple couldn't really afford anything better than dishing out like a £400 piece of tech on a rubber band.
Yeah, well, I would say that's actually my favourite looking design. The metal bands are okay, but they're extremely overly priced.
I just genuinely think the whole device is overly priced. But
yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting product, but one of the things that really interested me was obviously with things like Android Wear. One of the things that's lacking is the App Store. There simply aren't that many apps out, especially considering how long the operating system has been out for. But for the Apple Watch, on the day of launch, there was over 3,000 apps available, and I'm sure that figure has grown today. Now, Apple haven't really opened it up too much, so there's not a huge amount you can do with it. Most of the apps seem to be around fitness, things like that. There's a few kind of note-taking ones, a lot of music apps, and obviously you get your social networks like Twitter and Instagram. So I'm definitely, when I get it, I'm definitely going to do a video going over some of my favourite apps and some of the apps we've seen, because I think the apps are really what make a device, in my opinion.
They really do, but I remember Apple saying, "Oh, we'll have 1,000 or however many apps on launch day." But the thing that interests me the most is how many of those apps are you actually going to use on a daily basis. Like, you might use one fitness app, you might use 1 or 2 music apps, and you might use one app for notifications, and that's about it. Having 1,000 apps is brilliant, but the point is that you're probably going to have something like 50 or 60 airline apps for like your BA cards and whatever when you're at the gate, so you can just scan and walk onto the plane. But it's not going to be stuff that you use on a daily basis. I mean, obviously there's going to be a few people that will do that, but they're few and far between. For me personally, the most interesting story on the Apple Watch was the fact that it has a problem with people who have tattoos that are really, really dark on their arms, because the heartbeat sensors and all the other kind of sensors related to the body kind of go a little crazy, because it's not, to them it's not skin, it's dark, they can't see through it. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how Apple plays this and whether they're going to be able to fix it with a software update, because if it's a hardware issue, then I kind of feel sorry for the people who have spent, what, £300–400 for a device that now can't function.
Another thing that has been on the news quite a bit recently is that Apple are rejecting all apps that tell the time. So obviously you have your stock watch faces, there's quite a good selection and they're all fairly customizable, but currently there's no third-party support. So what some app developers did was basically made their own apps which specifically just told the time, and Apple seem to be very against this, so I don't know if they're going to plan possibly announcing a WWDC for third-party watch faces, but at the moment it seems that they're very stuck on keeping the custom ones, which for me isn't really a problem because I think the custom ones look quite nice and there's a good selection.
Right, realistically, how much do you bet Apple are going to come out and say, oh look, it's a revolutionary feature, we're opening up this watch for people to make their custom watch faces? It's a lot of bollocks.
I think, well, I think one of the things you really have to keep in mind is that this is a first generation product, and just like with any, it's the first time we've seen a watch operating system from Apple, so I think there's definitely going to be a lot of progression in the next few years. Personally, between it and Android Wear, I don't think there's a clear winner, but I think there's a lot that needs to be improved on both of them. I prefer the design of Android Wear, but in a lot of ways it really isn't functional at all.
I think it will become a lot more functional. I think what we'll see is a total move from this first generation to perhaps like your third or fourth generation. We're going to have a complete shift in direction. Like if you compare like an Android 2.3 device to an Android 4.0 device, you've got a huge leap into the future with, you know, in terms of your graphics and the way you actually use the device. And I think that's what we're going to experience. So I don't feel like there's much value in buying into the kind of whole smartwatch experience just now, unless you're just looking for something like a fitness tracker, in which case you're better off buying like a Fitbit or Jawbone or something like that, rather than buying a full-blown smartwatch.
Yeah, another thing I would like to note is basically if you're pre-ordering it or buying it, get the 42mm because a lot of people were kind of thinking, oh, the 42 might be a bit big because it's the bigger size. People were comparing it to the 6 Plus, but in actual fact, the 42mm is still smaller than the majority of Android Wear smartwatches, and the 32 is even smaller than that, obviously. So it's actually really small compared to other smartwatches, which I find was quite odd. I would have preferred they made it a slightly bigger screen and chucked in a bigger battery, which may possibly getting 2 to 3 days out of it. But yeah, it seems odd. I don't really know who would want the 32mm because seeing it in person is tiny.
I think the idea behind it was that you can't do a one-size-fits-all kind of thing with watches because it's something that you wear. Like, clothes don't usually come on a one-size-fits-all basis. You've got your small, medium, larges, whatever. So I think what they really did was that they had to cater for men and women, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's why you got your 42 and your, was it 32 or 38?
Yeah, something like that, I'm not sure. But also, another thing that I quite like about it is, well, I'm not too sold on the design, but I think I have to kind of see it and wear it for a bit first. But if you compare it to things like the LTG watch, even the Moto 360, the Moto 360 has like 3 different bands and only one style of watch. So it's quite nice that the Apple Watch, I mean, you can have hundreds of combinations with the different bands. So I guess it's quite nice that it's a bit more customizable, and also the fact that this is a watch made by Apple and it's had huge amounts of sales. So the accessories, there's going to be tons of accessories from tons of different companies. We're going to see different bands. I've seen a few battery bands which look very interesting, different outer casings, things like that. So it's going to be really nice to see what some accessory manufacturers can make of this. And as far as I'm aware, in like the first day of pre-orders, Apple sold more Apple Watches than Android Wear has sold in total since it first began, or something like that. They're not far off 10 million sales on the Apple Watch.
Yeah, there's obvious reasons behind that. It's an Apple product. It's exclusive. It's expensive. It's a way of showing off money. Well, that you've got money. People do that every single time whenever you've got a new Apple product. But going back to the accessories, you actually bought an Apple Watch and it's on its way to you. What accessory would you be looking forward? If you could design an accessory, what would you do?
Well, the first one I'm going to buy will be some kind of dock for charging it on my desk and next to my bed. And then I'll probably look at more third-party straps.
What is it? Just kind of like visual, so it looks nice, or rather something being more practical?
Well, as I said, there's going to be a large selection of different accessories that do different things, so I'm just going to kind of wait and see what companies announce. Which one suits me best, I guess. But yeah, so ours is currently shipping. It shouldn't be too long, so stay tuned on the site and on the channel for unboxing and review videos of that product. Should be very exciting, and I've got a lot of content planned for that. Now, as I said at the start, yesterday LG announced their new flagship device, the LG G4. Now, I know Patrick feels a little different than me from this, but personally, I really like LG's products from the G2 onwards. I think the G series line, the G2 and the G3 were. I really like them. They may have even been my favourite Android devices of the time. They're very powerful, beautiful screens, and the operating system was quite nice. So the G4 improves on that a bit. So I'll try and bring this window up. If I know. So basically, the two main features of this new device are the camera and the display. So the camera has been upgraded quite a bit actually. So it's a 16 megapixel shooter, which, to be honest, anything over 10 megapixels in a smartphone camera is plenty. It has an f1.8 lens, which should look beautiful, and from what we've seen from the quick demos, things like focusing with the laser autofocus are extremely good, and it also has optical image stabilization, which the only phone other than the G4 that we've seen this in is the iPhone 6 Plus, and from the test footage I've seen of that, optical image stabilization in a phone makes a huge difference. You're not going to get any camera shake in videos, and it'll stop pretty much all blur in photos.
May I begin?
If you want.
Right. Fundamentally, there are two letters that are wrong with this device. The first one is L, the second one is G. I have owned LG phones in the past, and they have been utter garbage. Fair enough, I haven't tried any of their newer stuff, but the fact stands, I cannot stand LG. Their phones, to me, are garbage, right? Optical image stabilization is a novel feature, and I think a feature that I would really enjoy using, and I think that would be really, really useful. Knowing LG, they probably did a cheap crap version of it, and it's probably a million times better on the iPhone 6. Aside from that, there are certain things that I do like about this phone. The fact that you get a removable battery is very impressive, and the processor and the RAM combination is all very good. But what always bugs me about LG is the fact that they don't really tend to stick to updating their devices. So you might buy like your G4, and then going forward you might get an update that's about 6 months or 8 months past the release date of when it actually came out. So if you've got something like Android 5.1 or 5.2 coming out, like Google might release it all the Nexus devices in, let's say, June, and you come February you might still be waiting on it, at which point, you know, what's the point? I mean, there's going to be another update around the corner, and then another one, and you're just not going to be getting those updates as soon as they come out. You know, other companies such as Samsung and HTC are a lot better at getting the updates out to their phones. The one solution that I see to this problem would be just to get rid of the LG skins and just run a custom version of Android, and then you'd have to do it yourself. But obviously with that come dangers of voiding your warranty and breaking your phone. And if you're going to spend, well, I expect this device to sell for around $600 or whatever, that's a pretty big risk against a pretty small reward. So personally, I would avoid LG, but then again, Quinn, you have your own opinion.
So basically, to update you on this, a couple of years ago, Patrick spent a lot of money on a phone that turned out to be not that good, and it's formed a bit of a prejudice.
A phone that is now being used as a webcam. This webcam is that actual phone.
So yeah, basically LG don't have the best history necessarily with phones, but over the past few years, they've improved a lot, and this does look like a very impressive flagship device. So speaking a bit more about the specs, one of the kind of most important things obviously on a phone is going to be the screen, because that is what you're going to be looking at. So this has a quantum quad HD display. So not only does this have an extremely high resolution, it will also be very bright if you choose to put it at its full brightness. So this will be brilliant at using outdoors and things like that, and it has extremely accurate color reproduction. So this should be brilliant if you enjoy watching movies or YouTube videos, and also of course if you're taking videos and photos with that new camera, then you'll be able to view them back in full definition, and I guess it's going to be one of the best, if not the best, smartphone screen out there. So as I said, there's a 60 megapixel and an 8 megapixel camera on this device, and one of the biggest things for me is the software. So with camera software, for example, on my iPhone, the camera software allows you to take the photo, turn on HDR, and turn on the flash, and that is pretty much it. Of course you have your different kind of modes and things like that, but that's about all I can do with the settings. Now this has a advanced or pro mode, which basically can allow you to tinker with all the settings. So you can change aperture, you can do manual focus, which I thought was quite interesting for a smartphone. You can change ISO, shutter speed, and you have full manual controls over the camera. Now as for on the inside of the phone, we have the Snapdragon 808, which should be a very powerful processor, though we haven't seen it that much in other phones. Also 3 gigs of RAM, and one of the biggest things is of course it has that removable back, so the storage and battery are both fully replaceable, which is a bit of a rarity in smartphones now, because of course Samsung and HTC have pretty much completely moved over to sealed back phones. So I don't know if there's too much to really say about this. It'll be launching within the next few weeks. Again, we're probably not going to get our hands on this, though I will do an article when it comes out giving some further impressions. But from what we've seen, this does look like it could be a very capable device. Obviously not for all of us, but on paper it looks very impressive, and I would expect this to sell quite well. I don't know if you've got anything to say before we end the stream.
Don't buy the G4. Avoid it at all costs. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Quinn?
Yeah, so that's been it for episode 3 of PFT Talk. If you like this, please give us a subscribe, a like, share it with a friend, I guess, and go over to our Twitch if you're watching this on YouTube. Links will be down in the description, and give us a follow over there. So that is it for this week's episode of PFT Talk. I hope you enjoyed. See ya.
Also, don't buy the G4. Do you think